and welcome to The Nation. I'm Jessy Chahal. Joining me on this edition of The Nation with the topic, the future of media and communications in Malaysia, is none other than the Deputy Minister of Communications, YB CHING. YB, welcome to the program. And
thank you, Jessy. Thank you for having me.
It's an absolute honor to have you here. After all, this is, under your purview as well in the realm of media and broadcasts. And as we progress towards our conversation later, YB, I aim to really look at some of the hits, the misses, and the challenges perhaps, as well as the gaps. Let's start with this. On a scale of 1 to 10, YB, honestly, how would you rate the Madani government so far in terms of efforts in communicating with the rakyat?
I would perhaps give 6, because I think disseminating the information to the rakyat is definitely one of the most important things, because you can have beautiful policy, you can have beautiful intention, but if eventually this is not communicated to the people, they don't understand why the government need to make certain decisions, you cannot get their support, you cannot get their buy-in from that, then of course it will be harder for the government to actually support the policy. And the policy I'm talking here is not just about hands out, because hands out is usually the easiest thing for you to get the popularity. But that cannot be the long-term approach of a good government or a responsible government. We need to think about the long-term solution, what is the realistic approach that should be adopted by the government, etc. And therefore, these are not simple issues. That is not like, I'll give you 500 and then you clap your hands, happy, 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 we have a happy new year.
Right, definitely not. So 6 over 10, you say, is your rating, and that is just slightly above average. What would you say moving forward is the plan to further strengthen this particular tool that you have at your disposal? And I take you to a quote the Prime Minister was reported to have said. He said, communication with the media and social media is a challenge. The criticisms levelled against us are that while policies are impressive, their impact and dissemination of information have not been effective or even satisfactory. So that definitely not being a 6 over 10. So this must be the focus of the Communications Ministry. What do you say to that?
I definitely agree with our Prime Minister, and that's why I think when he reshuffled the cabinet, he intentionally split the Ministry of Communications and Digital into 2. So we have now one Ministry of Digital and then one Ministry of Communications. And obviously the mandate for him, or the instruction for him, is very clear, that we need to strengthen the communication of this government. And that is why YB Fahmi, the Minister of Communication, is also appointed as the spokesperson for the government. So usually a minister only talk about their own portfolio, but in this case YB Fahmi basically is given the task to speak not just about his portfolio, but it's about the policy or the approach of the entire government. And I think that's why this ministry is now being called Ministry of Communication, and our job is definitely how can we convey the message from the government to the rakyat. But at the same time, I must say the effort, we maybe Ministry of Communication, we have various platforms. So we have Bernama, we have LTM, and at the same time we also got Japan, and then under Japan we got this community, Madani, and etc. And then now JCOM is also under this ministry. But these are the channels. But at the same time, we also need the input for relevant from the respective ministry to come to us and tell us what is their plan and what should be our communication plan. I think that is also equally
said
important.
That, what is the ministry's focus for 2024? What is your focus for this year?
I think we have a few focus other than strengthening the communication of this government. Of course, we are also in the midst of preparing the Malaysia Media Council bills. And hopefully, initially I think we have finalized the bill, so we are going to bring it to the cabinet. Once we get the cabinet approval and also AGC's approval, our next target, of course, will be bring it to the parliament. Once we got the consensus from the Pro-Tem Committee, so that will be one. And other than that, we are also in the midst of reviewing the Communication and Multimedia Act, and hopefully we will be able to bring the amendment bills to the parliament soon within this year, and to strengthen and also improve the current Communication and Multimedia Act.
I take you on that word to improve the current, and I extend that a little bit, the current state of communication as well. And you've mentioned, and while you've rated it as well, what do you think can be done better? Because there are many different strategies as well, and there are new initiatives. You've got the NIMP 2030, then there's the NETR, then now there's the new central hub that is also meant to trickle down to every single person who has data to share in the country. Considering all these different acronyms, obviously all very important part of the programs and initiatives and strategies for the development agenda of the country, they can often be seen too high in the sky. It's often laden with jargons as well. So with that in mind, how do you plan to trickle down to the ordinary person?
That's why we need to come up with the communication plan. You are right,
So there
Jessy.
isn't one now yet.
I think people maybe underestimate the importance of it. When we say we need to have a communication plan, meaning is how do we actually translate all these big names into layman terms?
Would you agree that a basic communication plan could no longer be applied? One that was done in terms of blueprint 20 years ago is not relevant anymore. It will need to use various different tools and channels and platforms, as you pointed out earlier,
Yes,
with the
because
feedback from agencies.
First of all, we have so many different types of social media platforms these days. When I first joined politics, I think people are only expect us to actually have a Facebook account whereby we just put our thoughts in writing and then upload some photo. That's it. By these days, you will know that if it's just a piece of article with some photos, and it will not be as viral as you turn it into a video content. So definitely the way of communication has been keep changing, and then we need to keep ourselves up to date. So maybe 5 years ago we will say infographic is very important. Infographic help people to understand the issue, the complexity of the issue, however. But these days, because people tend to watch more videos, short videos, rather than read, and therefore we also need to change our way of communication. So the question here for all the decision makers, and especially those people who need to run the project or execute the project, the question will always be, if you are only given 3 minutes, how would you want to explain this project, your pet project, to the people in layman terms, so that they can understand why they should care about this policy or why they should care about your project. I think we should put it on task on everyone. So this is what I always try to convince my counterpart in the government, that we need to have a 3-3-3. Meaning that if there is any issues, then you need to try to explain it within 3 paragraphs, and you need to try to respond to it within 3 hours, and then hopefully with just not more than 3 infographic or 3 photos or pictures.
But if I could just interest you in going that extra step further by saying that there are many layers of people who are also understanding and receiving this information. You have the children, you have those who are teenagers who are about to vote, and then you have the voters, if you want to put them under that sort of label, but then you also have the elderly. So communication, especially for government efforts and strategies, while these programs are being rolled out, where it is being shared and how it's being consumed, those touch points are also important.
Yes, therefore I strongly agree with that, because indeed different people, different category of people, different age group, they have different ways to consume information, to get information, to digest information. And therefore, for example, when we do the national anti-scam campaign, you also need to be very clear who is your targeted group, because when we talk about scam, everybody can become a victim.
Right.
It can be just school-going children, it can be teenagers, someone still studying in the university, it can be housewife, it can be someone working with some professional as well, or some elderly. And we can notice that actually different type of people usually will fall to different types of scam. So how do we break through the barrier and can send the message directly to them and make sure that the message is relevant to them?
It is indeed complicated and intricate in itself already, but I digress a little bit. Perhaps a fun question for you right now. Under the ministry's purview is also content creation, and it's also the freedom of the press and not just media houses, but even to a certain extent the entertainment value that surrounds the consumption of content and so on and so forth. Before I get into media per se, or in terms of entertainment, who is your favorite local singer, or perhaps what is your most recent movie that you really enjoyed locally made?
I don't listen to music that much because yes, I also watch a lot of videos as well. But I can tell you, in 2023 I watched quite a few local films and I was very, very impressed with it. For example, I think Police Evo 3 was actually very good, and it's actually the highest grossing box office local film in Malaysia for 2023. I think they got more than 50 million. And then I also watched Melbat, which was very, very good as well, 35 million, directed by Adrian Tay. And then the most recent one would of course be Abang Ade.
Yeah, that one's quite a popular one as well.
Yes.
Take you to South Korea. You've got the rise of K-pop that has taken not just the Asian region but the world by storm. You even have the K-dramas, which is something I've recently got sucked into as well. Yeah. Then you have the superstars BTS and Blackpink. They have been basically given due space to really explore within the creative and arts space. What does the ministry plan to do to support, or rather to further support and promote the creation and distribution of this sort of local content across various channels? Because Malaysia in itself is not just a melting pot, but we are so rich in cultural diversity. There are so many stories and songs and acts to share.
Yes, creative industry is also under the portfolio of the Ministry of Communications, and therefore we also look after music industry and also the film industry. So under the budget 2024, we have actually various policy. One of it actually is to the entertainment tax used to be 25% for local artists and also international artists. But starting from this year, the entertainment tax for local artists concert is actually is now 0%. And then for international artists coming to Malaysia to perform, the entertainment tax is now 10%. So I think this is a way where we want to encourage our local music industry as well. And at the same time, we also have FIMI, Film in Malaysia incentive, whereby we try to attract people from overseas coming to Malaysia and do their shooting here, because they can get up to 30% tax rebate. And not just that, if in their film, in the content, there are some elements where you promote Malaysia cultures, etc., then you can get additional 5% tax rebate. So these are and in the year 2023, in total, I think for shooting industry, the investment in Malaysia is 744 million ringgit. So this is actually a very, very positive figure. We hope that in the year 2024, continue with the FIMI and other incentive, we will continue to see a more robust film industry and also concert.
160 million ringgit has been allocated to boost local arts and the creative industry as well. While that is ongoing with FIMI and the rest of the programs or initiatives that you've mentioned, one that is glaringly in our face daily is social media, whether it may be a boon or a bane. At this point, according to a recent report as of January 23rd, 78.5% of Malaysians are active on social media. In fact, during the general elections, that went up to about 90%. But which means it just goes to show that Malaysians take to social media for their main source of information. Now, this obviously plays such an important role for discourse and conversations and exchange of opinions. With the rise of fake news and disinformation, misinformation, all of that as well will influence how the people think. There's also AI that is way ahead in terms of its deep faking and further enhancing the possibility of scams. What strategies is the ministry going to employ at this point to combat disinformation and to ensure that citizens of Malaysia or Malaysians or whoever's in Malaysia have access to accurate information?
I think this is a very challenging issue, not just faced by Malaysia government, but actually across the world. So yes, I think when everybody has access to internet, and basically we have very little control over what is being published or what is being put on the internet digital world, and therefore throughout the last 1 year, what we try to establish is a closer working relationship with the platform providers such as Meta and such as TikTok, because we must understand, first of all, for a company like TikTok and Meta, they do not take instructions from the government, from any government, which I think is understandable, because if you allow a government to dictate what is accurate and what is not accurate, what can be published and what should not be published, it might not be good for the society at large as well.
Right,
I don't
you've
think
also
this
got the clickbait headlines to fight with, because those are often misleading. Which brings me to social media and revenue. As of December last year, it was said that the local media has lost 2 billion ringgit in ad revenue to Meta, and that the upcoming Media Council bill, as you mentioned, will likely explore how to impose revenue charges. This has already been done in Australia, for example.
Yes.
How optimistic are you that Malaysia can pass this law, and what impact will it have on media organizations?
Perhaps I need to do some clarification here. The current draft for the multimedia for the Malaysia Media Council bill doesn't include any provision on the profit sharing or the revenue sharing. But however, in our opinion, once the Media Council is being set up, then they can represent the media industry to have the negotiation with the tech giants such as Google and such as Meta. Because one of the formula in Taiwan is whereby actually Google channel the fund to an entity, is a digital prosperity fund, and then they put the money there, and whereby that fund will actually conduct training for the journalists, and etc.
Right.
So at the moment, we do not have a bill or an act to actually legislate the profit sharing or the revenue sharing between the local media industry and the tech giant. But we are still monitoring, and we will continue to monitor the negotiation and discussion between the media house and also the tech giant closely. If they cannot have a consensus, then yes, we might need to come out with a new piece of legislation like Australia, like Canada,
right.
And then we need to go to Parliament to seek the endorsement from the Parliament. But at the moment, we are giving the media industry and also Meta, Google time to negotiate how they want to come out with an arrangement that is acceptable by all.
YB, to put you in a spot a little, while there is effort to improve the country's press freedom ranking, how do you balance this with allegations that there is extreme censorship, that ministries or the government is trying to control the kind of information that we receive? How do you address potential concerns around government interference to ensure that there's always a balance of fair and unbiased media and the environment?
I think the intention of the government is to make sure that there will not be bad actors in the industry, which I think we cannot deny that it is very easy and basically at very little cost that someone can claim themselves to be a journalist or they are a media outlet, and then but however the content that they produce can be very, very harmful to the whole society. It can be certain, they could have this habit of playing out certain issues to stir the emotion of the community, etc. So I think what is more important is this cannot be just government's effort, because whenever action is being taken by the government, we will be easily accused of interfering with media freedom. But however, I think we have come to the time whereby we need to educate people what are good reporting and what are bad reporting. And when action taken against bad reporting or some article we think there is content too much misinformation and disinformation, then we should allow the government and we should have a platform to actually take action against those as well. Because we cannot assume that all the information disseminated on internet, or in the real world, they are good information and the producer of it is actually with good intention. There could be mistake, which I think is forgivable. But
you do agree that there is a lot more freedom in terms of people sharing their opinions. You never have to, you can always agree to disagree, but without flaring up the 3 R's, for example.
Definitely.
Exchange of opinions and speaking out loud is welcomed.
Definitely. I mean, we know and we understand that it's impossible, almost impossible for us to have consensus. Although almost the time we try to have a consensus.
Would you say that the Malaysian media is truly free?
I think they are free as long as they are responsible. We have no problem for certain media to take a stand that is different from the current government. For example, I think this government, Madani government, make a decision to establish or to allow the second 5G network to be established.
Right.
We know there is one media outlet. I think their stand is actually against it because from the very beginning they think the single wholesale network is the best solution. So all the while they are actually very critical over the decision for the government to actually allow the second network. But it's okay, we never take action against them because there is different opinion.
Right. I move on to something big that's happening next year, and that is Malaysia helming the ASEAN in 2025. Now, at this juncture, the importance of regional communication, that's going to be vital. It's going to play such an important part, more so given that within the ASEAN countries there are many different languages and it's across 10 different countries. English will be recognized as the language of commerce and engagement. What are your thoughts in terms of how to effectively communicate with our ASEAN neighbors in English?
I think we must make use of this golden opportunity. I think this is very, very important, and I believe that Bernama will be able to play a very important role during this ASEAN conference in the year 2025. And that's why since last year, our Prime Minister, Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim, has been emphasizing that we need to strengthen our English learning in schools, which I think it also reflects that we should encourage our people to not just master one language. Of course, we need to master our bahasa kebangsaan. I mean, bahasa Melayu is our bahasa kebangsaan, bahasa Malaysia. But at the same time, we should appreciate talents who can speak more than one language. And then I think we in Malaysia, a lot of people do have this talent. And we are gifted because we are in an environment whereby we got people who can speak Bahasa, we got people who can speak very good Mandarin, we got people who can speak Tamil, etc. So we are gifted
and many who
are
multilingual at the same time as well.
Exactly.
YB, what are your 3 wishes for the country this year?
I think very important is I hope the country's economy will continue to be improved, and then we can see more investment coming in, and that can translate to a better living quality for all Malaysians. And at the same time, of course, I hope we all can live in a healthier, we can all be healthier, not just physically but also mentally, because I think, yes, while Malaysia spends so much time, so much screen time every day, average we spend 8 hours and 6 minutes on screen, I think it is also very important for us to take care of mental health as well. And then, of course, I hope we can be a more mature country whereby we can differentiate when people intentionally try to use 3R issues to break the society, but let's stay calm and make sure that we continue to stay united.
That's right. Stay cool and stay calm. Things are under control. What is the first thing the ministry will be looking at in the next few weeks to come?
We are going to have our retreat at the ministry level on the 2nd of February until the 4th of February, whereby we will not just having a retreat with the assisting agency, but also like the new members who just come back to us, there's JECOM and also my GCC. So we will sit down together for the first time with all the agencies and also department under the ministry to set out our KPI for the year 2024.
Well, starting the year strong, that has been my conversation with YB Theoni Ching on our discussion of the future of media and communication in the country. I'm Jessy Chahal. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Jessy.